See this, it's upside down only because the text identifying the stars is upside down. But if you reversed it, you would know this by its English name, the Big Dipper, right? Or by its Latin name, Ursa Major, which is the Great Bear. Okay, came out of Native American. Escaping black slaves knew it as, referred to it as the drinking gourd. The Chinese referred to it as the starry plow. And the original culture that named the stars, and probably one of the oldest references to the constellation Almazan, the scales. Now, I call this to your attention so here's the simplex level. This is a constellation. So everybody understands that a constellation looks like flat pictures of stars in the sky. Even though you may understand that it can't be a flat picture because the sky ain't just some projection. You know, there's space. But most people just think, oh, constellation. So this idea of a constellation, you know, patterns in the sky, that's fairly cross-cultural. So what you may not know, even if you did know the names of the individual stars within that constellation, is that there are different stories in different cultures made up about that constellation. Each one of them has their own worldview. Okay, and that's still the simplex view. Okay? Complex. The stars in the constellation are named in Arabic. In this story, they're part of a funeral cart pulling the body of a hero who was killed by the evil represented by what we call the pole star, Polaris. And they call Al-Qibla. Now, here's another level of a complex. So notice, Mirek and Dubé point to the star we call Polaris, most likely the pre-Islamic, notice this, pre-Islamic Arabs. Now they would say that they're not pre-Islamic, but all right, we're saying that pre-Islamic is before Muhammad. But practitioners of Islam said, yes, there was Islam before Muhammad, but again, notice this framework, right? So, who put scales in the sky and what would they measure in that worldview? Who put scales in the sky? Come on, this is simple, you know this. God. Okay? So if there's a scale in the sky, what would God measure in the scale? Huh? Good and bad. Right? And what is that process of weighing good and bad? Good and evil, right and wrong. What's it called? Judgment. And what else? If it's a system, judgment?
Justice.
Justice. Scales of justice. Little more complex backstory. The scales measure justice, and therefore, since it's God, it's infinite justice. Perhaps you remember a phrase, Operation Infinite Justice. What is that? Do you remember?
No idea.
Okay.
Pretty sure how to do it.
9/11 happens. Instead of going after Osama bin Laden, who we figured out had done it, we invade Iraq as payback. What was that operation called in the first week when Bush announced it? Operation Infinite Justice. What happened in the Arab world? They freaked out. Why? because only God can give infinite justice. Is America God? Well, they are in the, one of the issues in the Islamic world is they feel that America thinks they God and is trying to impose their lifestyle on the planet by force. Operation Infinite Justice, big uproar, they change it to Operation Enduring Freedom. Right? Which is what it's now historically known for. Right? Now, who's opposing us? Who does Osama bin Laden work for? Come on. I mean, he's dead now, yes, but who did he work for?
Al-Qaeda.
Boom.
Does it say Al-Qaeda?
Okay, remember, this is Arabic, right? So in English, you can basically turn it and spell it lots of different ways. We can go, here, I'll show you. Let's see here. Al means the. You can go Cade. You can go Q-U-E-D. You can add another A, Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaid. Same thing. Okay? So Al-Qaeda means, so you may or may not know this, but in Arabic, like its sister languages, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Amharic, they share, because they're sisters, they're not identical, but they share the same capacity. A single word in Arabic can be translated 10 ways. And you're supposed to know each way, all the different possibilities. You cool? You chill? We be chillin'? My ex did me cold. Kinda blue is a cold jam. Yeah, my ex did me bad. Michael Jackson was bad. O.J. Simpson was bad. Okay, same word, different meanings, and you're supposed to infer the meaning in the context each way. I mean, it's simple. This is multiple logic, diunital logic operating. All right, so Al-Qaid means literally the commander the code we live by, and the base of the fortress, the foundation. The commander, the code, the base of the fortress. Good name for a military organization, yes? Especially that's one ordained by God, right? Dispensing infinite justice. Okay? So another level of the complex view is to understand the difference between the stories and the cosmology they represent. The implication of the stories is explaining a place and a relationship to the universe. The fact stories change over time, even as the apparent two-dimensional picture changes. So the constellation 100,000 years ago looked like that. Today it's like what we're familiar with. In another 100,000 years in the future, it'll be completely unrecognizable, and they'll probably rename it if we haven't killed ourselves off by then. Or the planet isn't ruled by cockroaches or something. Multiplex. What appears to be two-dimensional flat picture is a multi-dimensional relationship which changes according to our awareness. The space between the stars is not just empty space, but it's filled with energy, among other things. So dark matter, all manner of things beyond our sense perception. Our simplex view is only our simplex view, not necessarily reality, which is not always that simple. Got this graphic from National Geographic, and it just basically displays the relationships of the constellations. So you understand it's not a flat picture, that the stars are moving in space in relation to each other and in relation to Earth in different directions. That's why the constellation is going to change. All right? So in a multiplex view, what looks like a flat picture is actually different relationships. Now the reason I go off into this astronomy is I was making a point in this piece that I wrote about the head of Al-Qaeda and the head of the United States government. You have, just to play on words, you have Al-Qaeda on this side, and you have W or W on this side. Conveniently, which you might not be able to see, but you'll see it in the graphic when you look at it more closely, is even though these appear to be opposites and far apart in each other than the constellation, they're actually closer to each other in space than either is to Earth. So Al-Qaeda's 206 light years, W is 106 light years, and the closest star in the constellation, Megrez, is 60 light years away. Still all pretty far, but. So, economically, at least, Al-Qaeda's former bin Laden and W are closer to each other than either is to any of us. Because they're rich kids. The Bush family and the bin Laden family have had business ties. Though the bin Laden family disavowed Osama, they were also given special treatment by the Bush administration during 9/11. While you and I were grounded, the government was flying the bin Laden family in the United States out of the country instead of interrogating them. Even though they claimed that they had no, well, we don't know, that's Osama's thing. You might have something to tell us. FBI was kind of pissed off at that. Why are they given special treatment? And also Osama and family had been transported from Saudi Arabia to Afghanistan by American intelligence. One of his kids writes about it in his book, Growing Up Bin Laden. Said all of a sudden we're living in this palace in Saudi, the CIA puts us on this plane, now we're offloaded in Bagram, Afghanistan, and living in a cave. So even though the cave has carpets, Mom was pissed. It's more than just Mom. Okay? So I suspect, this is my opinion, this is partially why no real attempt to kill bin Laden occurred during the Bush administration. And it's not the first time private business interests were put above national security interests of the country. This is why you study history, to look at the hidden connections. You also bring in economics. You also bring in mythology, because one person's mythology is another person's ideology. It may be false, but people still believe it and act as if it were true. Okay? I don't have to believe what bin Laden believed. I just have to understand that he believes it. I don't have to believe what the Klan believes. I just have to understand that they believe it. Right? That's the multiplex view. Partially. The preceding analysis was brought to you by Kawaida, a 21-element construct developed in the 60s to instruct African Americans about African culture, and which can be used as an analytical and problem-solving tool. So what I just did was show you, talk about politics, economics, science, history, creativity, psychology, spirituality, among other things, which were all part of the 21-element model. of which you only know about the 7 days of Kwanzaa. So the African American experience is multiplex. We don't just think outside of the box. For us, the box is actually a hypercube, a tesseract. So don't go asking the average black person about tesseracts. Only black nerds know about tesseracts. Some might have experienced our no blood, no foul rules in street ball. Kind of Jem'Hadar Klingon. We talk about motherwit. So what motherwit is making a way out of no way. Speak the Queen's English better than the Queen. Know the Queen's history better than the Queen. If you're on time, you're late. So you have to be early. I was told growing up, you have to be twice as good to be considered equal. Fortunately, that's not that hard. Just have to read more. But that's all basically within motherwit. It also basically talks about home training. How do you know how to act among other people? All right, so there are many ways of looking at a hypercube since I named that. So for example, in black and white, it's easy to see a series of simple cubes in geometric shapes and their simple relationship to each other. Now, if you can actually Google hypercubes, and you can be taken to a page that will show you multiple dimensional hypercubes. This is basically 2. All right, so you can see, if you look carefully, you can see that there are 2 intersecting cubes there. I mean, it is a nice geometrical design. And you will actually see this kind of design in Arabic art. That's why I'm bringing it up. Not making this stuff up. So that's a simple hypercube. Okay, so beyond black and white, you can see other dimensions. Off the face of every square in this object is another hypercube. Actually, it could be theorized that anytime you see a line, it's actually an edge of a hypercube. Add color to what we saw in black and white, so you can see the red cube, blue cube, and then yellow cubes connecting them. Okay, so if you thought about this as an exercise in diunital logic, the red cube and the blue cube interface and create yet another set of relationships in the interface, another dimension of possibilities. Okay, so you have to see both sides plus the interaction and other possibilities outside of those polarities. And seeing them both together is tricky. And then the yellow connections, and then seeing all 3 of those. All right, so you can begin to see all the relationships and then all the other possibilities, and if you went to black and white, could you still see them? I mean, you can develop, this is a mental exercise in, I think there's now a program called Lumosity, which you do brain exercises to improve your brain's agility, especially as you age. So if the situation is complex, the adding of the dimension of color helps. So which is foremost depends on your point of view, and you should correct for that. So I use this one to basically describe how a person, human beings are basically multidimensional, not just Africans, all human beings. Usually, you think of your world as what you can touch and see, what's immediately around you. What you might not understand is that your world has been shaped for you to see it that way. Okay, so in terms of pushing back, you need to understand that how those forces are shaping your view of your world and push back. All right? So I'm going to actually skip the program is going to do. You've seen this already. Red states, blue bloods, Crips and Bloods. So, in the Greek, let's take love. Oh, maybe I should write it in red. Okay. From the Greek, in the Western Christian framework, we have two names for love. What are they? Agape and? I heard it. Say it. Eros. Okay, right? So Eros is erotic love, agape is brotherly or universal love or something like that. That's in Greek. So Yeshua didn't speak Greek. Oh, it's possible he might have, but his primary language is Aramaic. So when he talks about love your enemies, the word used is aheb. Which is neither agape or eros. In fact, what aheb is a form of love that's actually transpersonal. Because agape and eros are basically about between people. And aheb is beyond people. Beyond you as a person. So, for example, between